Hi,
Good
and
morning.
welcome. Afternoon, Josh.
Yeah, as soon as I said it, I regretted it immediately.
Good
Welcome
afternoon.
everybody to another
Welcome.
episode of
Oh,
the
weekly
Stand.
up. Oh,
Thank you
it's
so
every
much.
word now. Yeah, every other word. Love it.
Yeah, figured if we're
Also,
gonna
happy Mother's Day.
yeah, happy especially to you, Jess, as a
Thank
mother
you.
yourself.
Mommy.
Happy
I'm the
Mother's Day.
resident mother of the show, so I will take all of your thanks and honor.
Sending it. I'm sending all. I also this is reminding me that
Did you call your mom? Did you text your mom right now? I want confirmation before we
Wait,
finish the
Josh,
show
what did that
because
remind you of? Because you cut out. You said this reminds me of, and then you cut out.
I have to reach out to my mom at some point today. Maybe I'll
yeah,
do it live on air
please do that.
in front of
Call your
her.
mom, text your mom.
I
If,
tried to call my
you
mom.
know.
She actually didn't pick up, so I left her a really funny voicemail.
Nice.
I'm sorry, Mike. That's rough. Do
Well,
you want to
she left
unpack
it.
that
She
one?
left it muted from church. Apparently, she texted me back right before we went live. She's like, "Oh, I had it on silence from church still." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds right."
Sure, mom. Sure,
My
sure,
mom,
sure.
my
You will.
dad
Sure.
even texted me before. I mean, he was up, but I was asleep because time zones. And texted me like, "Hey, don't forget it's Mother's Day. Make sure to call your mom." Like, yeah, I know. I'm 25. I've done this for at least 20
Right,
years.
right. It was funny on the way home before coming to do the show. I was listening to Stacy's mom on the radio because it was just on,
Yeah.
and I was like, "That's a weird song to have on Mother's Day," but sure, like it's festive. I get it. And then I remembered one time at Chuck E. Cheese's, the animatronics sing that song, which I was just like, "This is cursed."
You want to
But
know something
yeah,
really cursed as a child?
what?
We had a
Love
kid
to.
named Jesse in our grade who was dating a Stacy.
Oh
So we had we
no.
we had Jesse's girl was also had Stacy's mom.
Oh no. Rip. Um. Yeah. So outside of Jess, do you have any fun like Mother's Day plans after the show wraps?
I am gonna get waited on. Funny enough, I have like a surgery scheduled tomorrow to get my tubes removed. So it's a weird like Mother's Day, and then I can no longer have
But also no
children.
more Mother's Day, but no more.
The dawn of the final day. Yeah, but it'll be cool. We're gonna have dinner. I got like cards and flowers, which is really
Oh,
sweet. My kids drew cards, and I'm
Wait,
not
can we
cleaning
see
up
them? I love homemade cards.
crap.
no, we don't. We're not
I
gonna
wish I
make
had them
you.
on me. I'll post them in our Discord. Join our Discord server.
Yeah, yeah, that would be cool. I didn't want to like force you to like if it was like a private thing. I didn't want
Oh
to.
no no, I
Okay,
don't care.
cool.
I
Josh,
love
have you
showing
have
my
you
kids
read the
drawing.
news the last week? Women don't have rights anymore. Happy Mother's Day. All right.
Oh my God. Okay, so I won't say all of it, but there was this tweet that, or it was like a Facebook post that made me laugh. Funny enough, it was a Facebook post, but it was like, people getting intimate. It was like, yeah, whose is this? It's like the Supreme Court's apparently. Um, so
I
say that to
saw
your lover later.
I saw a really fucked up comment or like comic, where like this kid walks up to his mom. These people are on fucking lead poisoning, dude. Walks up to
Oh
his
God.
mom and is like, "Mom, where is my brother and sister?" And the mom's like, "You don't have any. You're an only child." And they're like, "No, they come to me every night. They want me to tell you their names."
What?
And it's like that, like you're murdering babies and they're haunting the
Oh
child.
my
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
God.
actual lead poisoning, dude.
Actual like poisoning. Yes.
It's
Agree.
funny because like
Also, I
when
like the idea
I
that I have tons of ghost babies from just jacking off that like are probably gonna haunt my kid in the future.
Wow.
when we started the show, I was like in my mind, it was like I want this to be as like nonpartisan as possible, and we're just
Oh.
gonna talk about we're gonna talk about just like the facts, the hard facts, and like pro union and like what's all the abuse we're gonna like highlight. But it's like more and more like it's kind of hard to be nonpartisan when it's
Yeah.
one side that is against like all of the things that we want, that is against you workers' rights, and women's rights, and personal
Right,
rights, and
right. Like people's right to actually live and exist and be happy.
Also,
Like,
when only
how do
30% of
we,
that
as
side
a
even wants
society,
it.
mess that up so badly?
yeah.
Doesn't matter what side you're on, like stuff's messed up and we should fix it.
There was there's a really quick tweet, and you guys are gonna roast me because like you can already guess who it's from. But
It's from Erudite, right?
um
It's from Not So Erudite.
here, Mike, in the links in Twitter articles, I just
Oh,
can
oh,
you
it's Mother's Day and you're gonna boast your dad on the show? Come
all
on.
right, no, wait, no. It was a really funny tweet, and it's kind of true.
All right,
Um,
let's toss it up there, Mike.
Where is it?
Give us the old
the old toss
where
up.
is it right now?
toss up. I can't hear
actually-
Mike, by the way. If
Mike,
he's
are you?
talking.
Are
I
you
keep
dead?
saying where
Did
is
we
it?
lose Mike? He died.
Can you not
We
hear me?
can't do the show without you, Mike. Come back.
I got Discord muted me. I said where is it? I keep asking where is it?
Oh, I
Oh,
posted
it's
it
in the
our
live
live
show.
the live
Sure.
show chat thing.
The oh, in the document. Okay.
In the
This is a
doc.
very.
I was like the one
very
place
intense show.
you guys never throw anything because that's where I throw
Well, I
stuff.
figured we should use it more often because this
You're
is
right.
what.
You're right.
Yeah.
Alright,
That's
here it
what.
goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just Hassan saying they're going to states' rights all of our rights away, which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, yeah. Oh, states' rights was also used to argue slavery. So I'm just gonna assume anytime someone's like states' rights, it's
To
like,
do what?
all right, you're pretty much like a fucked up person.
It's like whenever people like do the states' rights arguments, it's just like, no, what you want is no rights. You want like you don't want it kicked to the states' rights. You want it
Yeah.
kicked to the states so that then the states can also be like also no, like no.
Actual
Yeah.
trash
You
human
don't have
being
rights.
George Portnoy actually had a really based moment where he was like, yeah, the Republicans are supposed to be like small government, so like why the fuck are they the only party advocating for controlling what a woman
Fascism?
does?
Yeah.
I mean, he wouldn't say that because he's also kind of a fascist in some ways, but
Well,
Oh.
he very much tries to play the centrist role. He knows that a large portion of his audience at Barstool is on
Yeah.
the right. So I don't
No,
think
for
he's
sure.
trying to like
But
ruffle those feathers.
he actually was like, this is fucked up. No, in this one
Yeah.
instant, he was like, this doesn't make any sense, and you make our party look bad. Like,
Yeah. No, I like that. More people should be calling that stuff out because, like, I don't care what party you're on. If you're being a garbage human being and like taking away people's rights, then you should
Yeah.
probably should just.
Well,
fuck
that's
off.
that's
like
why
I call out Biden all the time.
that's
So
why
it's
the
like,
that's
I
one of
hate
the reason
this.
liberals lose is because we actually hold ourselves accountable and the right doesn't. So we lose power as we hold ourselves accountable by devouring each
Yeah.
other or over devouring each other, and the right doesn't do
Yeah.
that. So
Why don't we
Yeah.
just devour the state and then everything will be fine?
It's just there. We have no states. It's one giant. It is the
Socialism
America.
is when no states.
One no states. It's true.
I mean, it also like
Um,
it doesn't make sense. This is just a personal antidote here. Like,
Yeah.
if you are like what's the point of federally being like states can ban abortion? Like, what do you actually get out of that when other states are going to allow abortion?
Because they
like
don't
what
want
does it
people
really
to vote in certain states and they want voter suppression. So if
No, I know
abortion is
that-
a felony, then you're getting less votes in the states that you need pretty much slavery to survive
No,
on.
and you're absolutely right. That's what I'm saying from like a party standpoint. It's like how do you mental gymnastics that this makes everything okay now when it's still
Right.
legal in like
Yeah,
half
yeah,
the
yeah.
states. Like,
So you like move to the blue states or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, from their perspective, and we can talk more about it when we get to the actual topic and the interview where we talk a little bit more about Roe v. Wade. But I think the main justification is that like it's a state's laws should represent their voting demographic. So if a state is primarily blue, then
Right.
having pro-abortion legislation is representative of your demographic. And if you live in a largely red like state like Arkansas or Ohio or whatever, then it's the state's legislature's like duty to pass legislation.
But Josh,
that
as
is like,
duty.
anti-abortion.
as your daddy Hassan had pointed out many times this week, there's no state where more than 30% of voters actually believe that abortion should be a banned thing. So even in red states, that doesn't actually track.
People that vote for the abortion, like they don't want abortions, get abortions for their mistresses. So it's still accessible, just only to the
only
rich.
for
It's
the
like
rich.
you
Yeah,
would
exactly.
you would be right, Josh, but that's not even true in this instance. So
Yeah,
it's like, what the fuck?
and this
They
is why
need
the
more-
Republicans
They need
are
more
like,
infants. There's an infant decline. So
this is why they're trying to make the current dialogue around the case about the fact that it was leaked in the Supreme Court and not
Right.
about the
Right,
content
yeah.
itself.
right.
Because even Mitch McConnell acknowledges it's a widely unpopular decision, countrywide. So
Yeah. I
we'll
mean,
see.
people aren't having kids and they need a class, impoverished class so that they can exploit them. So if people aren't having kids and like you force poor people and people that don't have access to like proper health care to have kids, then those people get put into the system that's designed to kind of grind them for their labor, for everything.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my big like, woo, Woo! Tinfoil hat. Well, not really tinfoil
Um,
because it's pretty much what's going on, but
Can we take a moment to, speaking of tinfoil hat things, so like, the right wing has talked about human trafficking, et cetera, like all
yeah.
the time. And now they want to force people to have adoptions, which is like literally actual human
Right.
trafficking. An actual
Yeah.
thing. Like in the 1960s, the Catholic Church would actually sell babies to like rich people.
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
the-
It's always been a thing. Human trafficking has always been a thing, and it's always the poor. Like, yeah, I
Saw a
just,
stat recently that there's
it's
actually
funny.
more slavery happening today,
yeah,
like according to the definition of slavery than what was
correct.
taking place, like many decades ago.
Yeah, we are wage slaves, and it's pretty bad.
But yeah, we've got a great show for you all today. We're going to be, as you can already tell, we're going to be diving into the Roe v. Wade issue. We're going to be talking about some of the unionization movements that are going on.
Yeah,
Some Bernie Sanders topics. I always love talking about my
I
my
love
boy
the
from.
burn.
I'm always feeling the burn, and I'll probably cry because I still am not over the fact that he
Josh, Return of the Jedi.
lost the
Return of the Jedi,
nomination.
dude.
I know. I voted for Bernie.
Yeah. And then later we've got a interview with a SAG lawyer, which is pretty exciting because we always
Very
reference the SAG union and use them as a point of reference when we're talking about like what the video game industry could become.
right.
So definitely
Yeah,
excited to talk with her. Her name is Iris, and she's like super smart. Very excited to talk with her about
very
that. But
excited.
before we dive into any of that, topic number one, Jess, what's the deal? What's the deal with your sweater,
I
and why
love
does it need
that.
to be destroyed?
Okay, so I love that you're just like, just tweeted something. I'm gonna put it up because that opens the show up for so much fuckery. Um, it's a Weezer song. I was listening to like Pandora and like Green Day, and then Weezer came on, and there's the song called Undone, and it's like, if you want to destroy my sweater, pull
Pull the
this
string
thread
as
as
you
I
walk
walk
away.
away.
Oh, is it thread? I thought it
Yeah.
was string. Never mind.
Is it string?
No, it's thread. You're right. It's thread.
Pull this thread. Yeah, it's a good song. So, Weezer, yeah.
Also, the Africa cover is not overrated. It's perfectly rated and it's amazing.
So I don't know
Okay.
this song, but when I just woke up to this and I was like, we need to talk.
Do you want to get the
this.
channel DMCA? We can get the channel DMCA right now and find
No,
out.
Oh my God,
no, that's
no,
okay. We
okay.
don't need to play the song. That's okay.
Fair use.
Jess, how about you just sing a few lyrics? How about you give us a
Oh,
little
no, no,
preview?
no. We don't
No,
want
you
to do
don't.
that.
Okay, all right, fair
I didn't
enough.
warm up. Like, I
No, I
need
get it.
the
Hey, I understand.
I need the spray stuff.
I'll tell you what. I'll do it. I'll do it for you. What's the name of the song? Actually,
Undone.
no, I'm not. It's too early.
It's
um,
fucking 1 p.m.
it's too early. Look, it's too early. It's too early. It's just too early.
Oh,
Actual topic one. And n-
oh
I
yeah.
none of the. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So clearly very put together this morning, as always. Every morning, very put together.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now, Netflix is currently hedging their losses because
Yep.
last week we talked about their, I think they crashed 30% in the stock market and they're like leaking like a massive amount of
Yeah.
subscribers. So right now it seems that they're trying to hedge their bet or their losses with a bet of investing in the games industry, and they have plans to have at least 50 titles by the end of the year on their subscription service. And like when Netflix first announced that they were getting into games, my first gut reaction was the same reaction when I heard Amazon was getting into games, and really when
Yep.
every like any publisher that's not already in the games industry is like, oh, look at this like big
Yeah.
profitable sector, like we want a piece of the pie. And my gut reaction is always you don't understand the industry, you don't know what you're doing, and you're probably going to fail. That is my gut
Yeah.
reaction.
I mean, look at Activision Blizzard. Activision's a publishing company, got a hold of Blizzard, and yeah, it just like is a salvage title at this point.
But you could
Um,
argue that like Activision Blizzard at least like I mean they're pumping out like I sure
no,
that they're on the decline,
accurate.
but they are like running a
Accurate.
successful game company. Whereas
Agree.
right up until Lost Ark was a massive success, Amazon had
Hmm.
nothing. Like New
Nothing.
Worlds had a spike at the beginning, completely dropped off. And you
Yeah.
could argue that like outside of Lost Ark, Amazon's game studio is still not succeeding. Google's game
Mm,
studio flopped.
mm.
So I don't know. It's hard to say that Netflix is going to have any success.
True.
We'll see like with their subscription service if they will have any more luck because you do see some success on that front with Xbox Game
Right.
Pass, with the PlayStation,
I was
whatever
just
they're
gonna say,
doing.
Game Pass is such a good platform. How is Netflix gonna market their own product onto somebody else's platform who already
Mhm.
has that product? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. It's funny because when I remember working at a mobile game studio and we were like really underground, and we got bought by Fox, and then our CEO was like, we really want to compete with Netflix. Like we want to have like streaming and stuff and like with Fox. And then now Netflix is trying to compete in the games industry because now they're starting to see that decline. So it's a weird full circle moment where everyone was trying to compete with Netflix for a while, and then Netflix just had a really bad quarter. So now Netflix is doing a little bit of damage control, just like how can I, everyone. I feel like corporations, they turn to video games as like we can make money. It's fast, it's easy, but we'll
Well, it's
see.
the same thing that you saw with the huge influx of gaming executives talking about getting into NFT gaming. It's like
Right.
it's these people that don't really have the best understanding. They just have a very high level
Yeah.
understanding without being in the trenches,
They have
without being in the weeds.
results-oriented understanding, is what I like to call it. Like they
The
see the
results
results,
oriented.
they see the results of other people's works and say, "We can do that," and don't actually
Oh my
know
God,
what goes into it.
yeah.
Well, what they
Yes.
see is the big the one out of a million success, right? Because that's the
Right.
one
Right,
people talk
exactly.
about. What they
Yeah.
don't see is everything else that's flopping.
Or just
Yep.
even the work that goes into that success.
Ugh, yeah. Yeah. See though, I mean, hopefully we'll just have to see what kind of content they're putting out, or if they're putting out like games as a service, which is a lot of people are trying to do. So,
Yeah, and that's what I'm very curious. We'll see where their demographic is too.
mhm.
And if they're willing to shell out the amount of money to kind of like attract a wide range of like maybe like indie games, indie publishers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what like Xbox had to do. They had to just shell out a bunch of cash to get people. Same with Epic Games,
Yeah.
the Epic
So
Store.
true.
And to play devil's advocate,
Mhm.
Netflix, there was a time where no one thought that their movie subscription service would work.
So
eh,
true.
so and
I
they proved
remember
everybody
getting
wrong.
discs sent to my house and they were like
Yeah, I did that.
scratched.
It's like this is the future.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the time, I was like, no, it's not because I like going to Blockbuster. I like browsing. I don't
Right.
want to, yeah.
Yeah, if it's
It's
physical
kind of cool
media, I
that
want the
like
full physical media experience. I don't want to shortcut it.
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But I would argue you already have that accessibility in the games industry. Like Netflix did
True.
change the game with streaming, but now you
True.
already have like I don't know how you compete with Steam, Xbox, Microsoft
Yeah.
Store,
I
Epic
know,
Game. Like
like, are they launching a platform? Like what?
yeah,
I think they
A
acquire.
launcher?
They acquire or they get acquired.
Fair.
um,
Like
but
imagine Microsoft buys Netflix.
if Microsoft bought, no, Netflix would never sell to Microsoft. That would never happen. Their valuation is way too high. Are you
Yeah.
talking about just their games like
No, I'm
platform,
talking
like
about if
just the game
Microsoft,
side?
not the Xbox side, like Microsoft, the full end
Microsoft
company,
Yeah,
buying. I
acquired
think
that
that
would
would
be
Netflix.
get uh,
that would be that would
vetoed.
get yeah, that would get struck
Yeah.
down for sure. Also, Netflix share price. I mean, what are they at even after the 30% loss? I think they're too high,
Oh,
It's
right?
right on.
Net
It's right
I
on
think
screen right
so.
now. I've had it on screen the last.
100. Yeah, that's a
Oh,
high fucking price. When you think about
yeah.
how much Microsoft paid
I'm
for
not saying right now. I'm
Activision,
just saying at some point in the future.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't know. I don't see it. That's because this is 180 after the huge crash. That is a
That's
very
true.
very high price. To
Well,
if you're saying like a few years after they recover from this, I don't think they have the capital. I don't think they would be able to get it
yeah.
past.
I don't know. Netflix has a history of just like cutting things that people enjoy watching, like The Office and like stuff like that. Like they'll just cut shows that everyone likes,
Well, that's
and
not their
their
fault.
catalog is very. I don't know. Like I don't find myself going to Netflix first anymore. I used to do that a lot. Like I
Mhm.
loved Orange Is the New Black. A lot of their originals are very good. But yeah, I
Back
just
when they had all of the Marvel shows that were phenomenal, like
oh
Jessica
yeah,
Jones,
yes,
Daredevil, those were sick.
But none of
yeah,
those decisions are the consequence of Netflix. They're the consequences of other companies entering the space, even when they don't even
right.
have a full catalog to enter the space.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep.
Because they're like for example, Peacock's like, oh look, everyone goes to Netflix for The Office, so we can launch an entire platform
Right.
based on The Office, can't we?
Also, I
Okay.
pretty much have cable at this point because I'm just paying for like several streaming services.
But you get to share it with your friends, and you don't pay for cable. You each pay for one, and then entirely
If
you
you have
all have cable.
Well,
Netflix,
not anymore. Not with
maybe
Netflix's
that's
new
why. People
changes.
said, no.
Yeah. I mean, all it takes, right? This is, I feel like, with streaming platforms now, what you can do, and this is what you couldn't do with cable. Like with cable, you had to commit to like a year
Right.
subscription with a cable package. But now it's just like, oh, something is out on Hulu I want to watch. Subscribe for a month,
Yes.
unsubscribe,
That it
and you
has
just
been
bounce
great.
between them all.
Right. Agree.
I will argue
Uh,
though, I think the future of Netflix, just to kind of bow this, is stuff like Squid Games. It's entering that
so
foreign market in a way that other competitors are unwilling to,
Yes.
because they're all classic Hollywood studios where everything is in-house or adjacent in-house and it all flows through their own production. Whereas things like
Yeah.
Dark, Squid Games, all that stuff cannot be ascertained in that same method by maybe I can
That would
see
be
maybe
awesome.
HBO Max acquiring that sort of stuff, but yeah, otherwise.
They should bring back public access channels to Netflix
Bro,
and just
Yes.
we
like
would be a
let
Yes.
great public access show. Are you kidding me?
right. They should just like let people have a stream key and public access.
That would actually be really cool. If
It would be
actually,
the
I mean,
best market because it's like untapped at the moment. No one really brought that back.
yeah, like the confluence of Twitch and like local access television, Netflix. I actually,
Absolutely.
if there's one platform that can compete with Twitch now that Microsoft's out of the game and Mixer's not a thing anymore, I feel like
Yeah.
Netflix actually would be the best position.
Yeah.
So that's food for thought. Actually, that's interesting.
Pay me Netflix.
Especially, what's that?
I said, pay me Netflix. Cut the
Yeah.
check.
Yeah, please, daddy Netflix. I mean, I would much rather be on a platform like Netflix than Twitch. I would rather, even though they're both like large
Yeah.
companies, I would much rather be working for and supporting Netflix than Jeff Bezos than Amazon, you know?
Fair.
Yeah.
I love it.
But anyways, that tirade with Netflix went on way longer than I thought it was gonna be a little
We have a
footnote,
lot of
little
things
blip.
to say.
That could be a whole episode discussion. But moving on to New York versus Activision, my home state of New York.
Ooh,
God bless
ooh,
them.
ooh, ooh.
They're taking up the fight. They're joining the alliance, the joint task force against
They said this
Activision.
fucking
They
guy.
said, "Hey, what's suing you?"
Hey
What,
yo, the
hey, what's doing there?
gabagool. Yeah, Tony Soprano himself launched a
God.
full-scale assault against Activision Blizzard. Um,
Honestly, that's believable as a headline in 2022. Can I just say? Ever since the Gavin Newsom stuff, I'm like, what else?
it's
What else?
confirmed everybody's suspicions that he did in fact survive the end of The Sopranos.
I mean, listen, if
And
Rudy Giuliani can be a Masked Singer, we can have
Oh
him
my
suing
God.
Activision.
Mass Singer is such garbage television.
It's
Can
a
I just
Fox
say,
show, of
like,
course it is.
why? Like, who has these like executive directors like just like hire anyone that has money and it's like people don't want to watch people do karaoke in like suits. Like, what's going on? Sorry, random
and
tangent.
you know the casting director that like Rudy Giuliani was masked, but you know that like there's a casting director that brought him
It's
on that
gonna
was
be a
like, oh, this is gonna
surprise.
be great for
Yeah.
ratings. This is gonna be so good. Oh my
Oh
God,
yeah,
Rudy Giuliani.
controversy. That's what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they know it gets clicks now.
But no, this is great. This is the suing is taking place because it's technically it was like
Shareholders,
a
correct?
yeah, it accounts for like the pension holders in New York City.
Right.
The what is it? The NYCers that owns Activision stock. Is
Mm-hmm.
one of the largest 5 pension systems in New York City, managing pensions for firefighters, police, and teachers.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, this is essentially like the suit is demanding that the stockholders be allowed to inspect the books and records, um, to prove that the $95 per share is not undervalued. They're essentially
Oh,
arguing that like
interesting. Okay.
they're being screwed over by this low price
Oh,
acquisition. Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
So that's fun, but really, I think we're all just excited that there's more heat on Activision because
Yeah, I'm
the
like,
more the merrier.
yeah.
I
Like
honestly
that
don't even care the
Pokimane
reason.
image where she's like, sue me, but like it's Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, it's
We need to
exactly.
get that photoshopped, actually. I'm gonna do that, and those will be parts.
I can do that. Just send me the tweet. I know
Hell
what you're
yeah.
talking about. If someone finds it, I'll do
Hell
it.
yeah.
I'll try and
Yeah,
find
yeah,
the
yeah.
tweet. But yeah, so that's awesome. Also,
Hell yeah.
from my home state and actually my home city in New York, Buffalo, New York, we've got
Yeah.
a Starbucks Buffalo location on strike.
I'm so proud of them. Weren't they also the first to unionize?
I don't know if it was this
I think it was
specific location.
Buffalo. Yeah.
Um, so I think this is like one of the locations in Buffalo. This is the Delaware and Chippewa workers. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so this is one of the locations in the Buffalo area,
Oh,
and
cool.
um,
Good for them.
just seeing like every time I see the Starbucks union in the news, I'm
I
just
know.
like,
I always retweet anything from Jorts, anything from Starbucks Workers United.
Hey,
yeah,
real
I
quick,
still need to reach out and try to get one of them on the show. I would actually love to
Jorts?
hear their
Yes.
thoughts. Yeah. Sorry, Mike, what were you gonna say?
I have an exclusive breaking story actually for us.
An exclusive
What?
breaking
Oh
story.
my
Yeah,
God.
Is it real?
Breaking news.
Yeah, we have a new acquisition in the streamer space.
Oh.
Ninja has officially signed with Netflix.
Wait, is this?
Shut up. You're
Are-
lying.
Are you, Mike? Are you trolling us right now?
Is my name Mike Knowles?
Oh my God.
You fucking asshole.
Honestly, I'm super impressed. This is such a cursed image, by the way. Can I just say?
Yeah. Well, I've
Absolutely
seen
cursed. It looks like
Ninja-
my sleep paralysis demon. Like that's what my nightmares look like. It's like the Netflix logo with like a ninja. Like what is he talking up to? He's gonna.
I've also
murder
seen
people.
like billboards around LA spring up with Ninja on it, and I thought
Really?
you kind of fell off. Yeah, oh yeah, there's like one like not too far.
No
away.
way.
Here's the thing. He's in my opinion, right? He's kind of like he's the gamer, one of the few that have broken into the mainstream like
Right.
creator and advertising space. So even though he's fell off in terms of views, like
Yeah.
ads and agencies are aware of him and aware of his brand, and so they bring him in because
Right.
of that. Same reason like Shaq is like everywhere. Everyone knows Shaq's brand. Like it doesn't matter.
That man's doing side quests like
yeah,
crazy.
Exactly.
Like he does literally everything. He DJs. He
ever-
owns Papa John's. He like wakes up, hits random, and walks outside. I'm convinced. Anyway,
I feel like
It's
we're
just
gonna
bizarre
break
to
Josh
see.
this episode.
I know. Like
Um,
that's like my goal is like when can I make Josh pee himself or something? I don't know.
break every day, every episode I break, but
I'm
mostly
so
every day.
broken.
But yeah, on the
Damaged.
topic of Starbucks, Starbucks no givey benefits to union seeking locations, and
Oh, sounds like Activision Blizzard with Raven QA.
what is this trend of corporations not of just being like, oh, you're
They have money
trying to
and
unionize?
laws
You-
only exist for the poor, so they're like, hey, yeah, we can't like kidnap people and kill them anymore if they want to unionize. So what we're gonna do is make their lives so miserable they want to leave. So
And what are the benefits? I didn't even realize that Starbucks was had they announced like a new slew of benefits
Yeah.
for their locations?
Coward Schultz, we're watching you.
Yeah, we talked about it. I think on the autism episode, me and Justin. They just,
Okay.
it was just a bunch of small stuff. Same as when Activision's like everyone's getting like this small
Yep.
pay raise and stuff like that, which is
Okay.
like deserved,
It's
but
honey.
isn't enough.
They do
you
that a
know?
lot. They'll
Yeah.
like honey the people that are good and not unionizing, and then they'll
Yeah.
give vinegar to the people that are like fighting for working conditions and stuff.
Makes sense.
It's
Now,
part of like the class divide so that they can fight each other. Like that's what they want. They want
Yeah.
people going for each other.
Yeah, it's like how
they-
I honey Jess with memes and I curse Josh with memes. It's same thing.
Oh, it's so
Did-
good.
Did they announce like as drastic of increased benefits for their employees though? Like, is it something as
I
crazy
doubt
as like?
it.
No.
Okay,
It
It's-
was just like
they-
small workplace. Like
They give you enough to like think you're gonna be quiet.
gotcha.
Yeah.
I can
Now-
Google it. Let me give it a second.
And no one's gonna fall for it. I feel like
I don't. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
let
They
me-
just
let me-
have so much traction. It's almost impossible to.
Here we go. A month after his return to Starbucks' interim CEO, Howard Schultz has announced new benefits, including expanded training, improved sick leave, and credit card tipping for 240,000 Starbucks employees across
Oh yeah,
88
that's,
Okay, that's like
That's
nothing.
absolutely nothing.
Absolutely
and more
nothing.
training because that's what they want. We want more training. We want to come in more.
Oh, we're gonna train you.
So yeah, and also really cool. Bernie Sanders recently visited one of the Starbucks locations that are trying to unionize, and I watched this video. I figured we could all watch it live and kind of react to it. But
Love that.
I teared up. There was a part where I mean, of course, the music hams it up a little bit and the editing and everything. But like, no, it was.
Yeah.
There's a reason that Bernie is America's like sweetheart. You know,
He really is.
Sweet Papa Bernie.
And I'm looking for a job. What do I get paid? You don't know roughly? How much?
How about 15 now for me?
You got 15?
13.
13. $12 an hour. Do you know that those are horrendously low wages?
Aw.
Can you afford the health care that they give you? All right, so understand, I want you to understand this. Because this is the bullshit the corporations often do. What they say to the public, McDonald's does it as well, Walmart does it. They say, we're really generous. We are offering health care, we have this, we have that. And you look at the figures, nobody takes it because they can't afford it. You
Yeah.
understand.
Can I just say I love his righteous
That is
rage.
a bad situation. Anybody can walk across the street, get hit by a bus. You have friends who have
It all
been
comes
by
through the
bus.
heart, you know, it's not an
Yeah.
act or anything. Because he's been saying the same shit for like 30 years. Longer than that, actually.
Last year, whenever I moved to Richmond, and then in late August, I was diagnosed with cancer. And so I had no choice but to work full-time hours at Starbucks to afford health insurance so that I could get chemotherapy
Oh my
and
God.
all my medications. So I'm working at least 30 hours a week.
Come on up.
I'm chemo sick.
What is your name?
My name is TJ.
TJ? All right.
Dude, he's just so personable, you know?
God, I had my last
Like
treatment.
he actually cares about these people.
Yeah.
This is the part where I teared up watching it first time. It was just-
I would also cry if I was in the same room as Bernie.
I wanted to know how much knowledge you have about the hours you're working in the next couple of weeks. Did you know maybe?
It's never certain. You can tell your manager how many hours you want to work,
You know,
and they might give it to you, but
that sucks that they have
Yeah.
work schedules where they just don't know how much money they're gonna make that week, and that's a lot of the service industry, right? Like you never really know.
Right.
Say what you will about Activision Blizzard, but you always knew you were gonna work more hours than you expected.
Right.
Hired a lot more employees very suddenly.
But it still wasn't
We're now
enough.
overstaffed and our hours are being cut.
So what I'm
Yeah, they're
hearing
doing
from
this
you
because
is
they want no
you
vote.
may end up in a given month with less income than you thought you would have.
Yeah.
So it's hard to budget if you don't know how much money you're making. Is that right?
You know, up until very recently, a supervisor or barista who's been there 5 years, 10 years, 15 is making the same amount as one that's just starting.
All right. Let me see how smart you are.
Yeah. That happened at Blizzard
Why
too.
do they do that? You would think if you work 5 years, she worked.
Yeah, the pay cap for
It's so bad.
who
People
wanted
were
to
like,
stay in QA.
people were
and
like,
senior
leave
level.
and come back if you want to raise.
Yep.
In other words, look, there are two different business models. One business model, the humane business model. So look, I want you to work for the company. All right? We're going to do good wages, benefits, everything. And you're going to move up the ladder. Okay? Because I want you to sit. There's another business model, which is McDonald's, which is Walmart, which I learned today is Amazon. Is the truth is, I really don't want you to stay. Because
Yep.
as soon as you're gone, I don't have to pay any benefits, then the next guy comes in. That is their firm.
Yep.
You bring in more people, you keep wages low, and you keep it churning around. Understand that what you are doing impacts not just your job in Starbucks, it is impacting the entire country. Real power rests with very, very wealthy people who own the economy, who own our political system. And the thing that these guys on top are most afraid of, but they are afraid that you guys will say, wait a minute, let's see, 31% increase in profits, $60 million for the former CEO, Schultz gets $1 billion richer, and I'm making 12 bucks an hour.
Hey, look, Jeff Bezos has got to go to space somehow, right?
So
Yeah.
what I want you to appreciate,
Happy
We
fucking
all make
stays up there.
a
sacrifices.
right instinct. Now, the system is not going to tell you that. And you are striking a nerve because you are acting in the way that millions and millions of people feel.
Correct. Workers have all the power.
So there's a something I want to touch on that was mentioned in there. It's their employment strategy where they don't want people around for 10, 15 years because they don't want to pay them more. They don't want to give them benefits. They don't want to reward them for their loyalty and service when they know that in the service industry, there's someone who can do the same job that'll just come in new and take a lower
Right.
wage and just be happy and smile about it for the first few years until they get discontented. But so this brought up memories when I watched this of a certain meeting that we had on the broadcast team at Activision Blizzard. It was a meeting where one of the top guys, like running all of the esports and marketing and all the stuff, all of the production for the Overwatch League and the Call of Duty League, and one of the horribly mismanaged team at the high level. On the lower level, like amazing team, but at the top level, very mismanaged. Nobody really knew what they were doing, and one of the top executives was replaced by someone who just came in and wanted to address all of the concerns. And this is at the height of the turmoil at like the larger Activision Blizzard publishing. So everybody is very concerned. Everybody has questions. Of course, they never really take anyone's questions at these meetings. It's always just like very broad.
Josh, ask me a question and I'll be Activision Blizzard.
Okay, hey, Jess. Yeah, Jess. So yeah, we're all very concerned. There's a lot happening right now. With you coming in, what steps is leadership going to take to make actual change to make us want to stay here? Because right now we're all very worried. We a lot of us don't think we're going to have job stability in a year. A lot of us are contract and aren't even full time. So what do you say to us who are in this position or are worried about our jobs right now?
I would say I'm very happy to be here. I think Activision Blizzard is awesome. I feel very confident in this company, and I'm going to choose to be optimistic. And, I think that all of us can collectively just do the best that we can. And while we don't have, concrete answers of what's down the road, I do know that I'm very passionate about Activision Blizzard.
Jess, can I give you a little director's note there? Next time you run that, can you make sure you don't make eye contact with the employees, the scum you see, and you should instead make eye contact with the stack of money you're counting in your hand while you're talking.
I love that.
So
I'll do that next time.
No, like we basically asked that question at this public meeting. Like, what do you? Why?
I've heard it so many times, and it's always a non-answer. It's like I'm happy.
Was actually very like it was surprisingly what's the word I'm looking for?
Direct.
Sorry, what did you say, Mike?
Direct.
Direct. It was surprisingly frank, where he was like, "Well, hey, if you want to like move to it, like head to a different company, I encourage it. That's how I got to where I am today." And that's how I find like I grew the most.
Baby.
That's just showbiz. Like you should absolutely move from company to company because that's how you're gonna get the most growth. And we were all just like stunned because like, oh, he gave us a real answer, and also that's a horrible answer.
I know.
We're like everyone's just stunned.
Usually, how I answer is how they answer. They're just like, we don't know anything, but we also know a lot. And
they give you the PR answer, the non-answer.
Guys, speaking of Activision Blizzard, I have breaking news.
Oh my God. Like, are you gonna give us another like fave?
Let's do it.
Adding to the lawsuits is indeed Pokimane tweeting this from right outside Activision Blizzard Studios. She will be joining the lawsuit in but against the workers, not for the workers, against the workers.
Like I literally can't get through a serious topic without your fucking memes. I can't. I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. You asked for this
one. You said to make this one.
I'm going to lose my mind.
You said Photoshop Pokimane into the lawsuit. That's what you asked.
We did ask. We did. It's true.
I would love. Yeah, please send that to me so I can tweet it with no context.
Wow. Look in the chat. Ja 545 says, want to become famous? Buy viewers, followers, and primes on viewers. Shop viewers shop. Oh, why did we ban Ja? He's trying to help us out. Why did we do that?
We want to buy viewers.
I want to be famous for banning these assholes. That's what I always say on my stream.
That's fine.
Allie, you're gonna have to answer to this, by the way. Oh, he's
Can I just say the Ja is kind of triggering because when I early in League before they had like different servers to break out, so like servers were just joined together, and then like I remember people would join my games, pick Katarina, feed, and then the entire chat would just be like Ja like the whole time, and it was just a thing.
I also I remember the name of the person who made that comment at ATVI. It was
Oh,
Tony Petiti or Patetti.
mm.
I don't know how you
Tony
pronounce it.
Petiti, huh?
Tony
Tony
Coming
Petiti.
in.
he's probably
But
suing
Hey, if
them.
you want to make it in this industry, Josh, you gotta drop the pants and you gotta walk door to
oh my
door.
God.
This
So
fucking
well,
guy.
yeah, I do want to put Tony Petiti on blast. That is absolutely a horrible answer. The answer should not be, yeah, like don't have loyalty to this company that you're passionate about. No, hop from company to company until
Yeah,
you're where I
that's
am today, a corporate
bad
stooge who's
advice.
made it to the top. Like, guess what, Tony? Not all of us want to be corporate stooges
That's
and like
beta
just climb the
employee.
ladder. Like, we're not all here to just make as much money and maximize profits and climb as high as you have. We're here because we want to be here. We want to
Let's
like
be
work on
real. He
video games.
probably
We care
failed
about the company.
upward,
No,
especially with the
so
nature
he
of the
did,
industry.
but
Oh,
he absolutely did. Like, you don't get to that position that he's at
shocking.
without like not, like just tossing passion out the window and just like hopping from company to company. That's what you
Being
do.
dead inside and killing everyone around you.
And he bailed not long after that
Usually
point.
happens.
Yeah, he didn't even
Happened with
stay that
me
long.
with the director of quality assurance. The first day I was there, I was like, "How transparent are you?" And he was like, "I'm more transparent than people like." And
The
then
uh the
he dipped out.
the coworker who reminded me what his name was is like, dickwad dude had no business being in his position. Yeah, like
I'm
horrible.
genuinely shocked when people managers are like the most cold, like unpersonable person on the planet. Like it's like you manage people. You should be a good person.
Yeah. But those people aren't in those positions to actually make Blizzard or any of those companies successful. They're there to make themselves successful.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Can we just get more like I don't want to make like Jay's a bad example, right? Because Jay
Yeah.
like did kind of go from like the grassroots, like bottom of Blizzard, and like
Mhm.
rose through the ranks, and then actually like entered a level of leadership at Blizzard, like from the
Right.
game dev side, as opposed to like coming in from the corporate side and then like climbing up the ladder and just ending
Mm.
up in a position because they just have the resume or whatever. So,
Right.
but Jay was also horrible at his job and was just a yes man. So like bad
Yeah.
example, but good example. We need
I
more
know
people
nothing of
like
Jay,
that
to be
who
honest.
do like have experience on the game side and care about the employees and are passionate about the company and want it to
Mhm.
succeed. People like Jennifer O'Neill, as we've talked about many times.
I
We
love
need more
Jen.
people like that in the
We need
positions.
Jen
But
O'Neill everywhere.
yeah,
Jen for president.
Jen for president,
Jen
I
for
would
this
vote for her,
show.
absolutely. Jen for president, Bernie Sanders VP. That's what
Oh
I
my
want.
god, yeah.
What I did want was Bernie for prez and then Elizabeth Warren VP. I thought that would have just
I
been
know, I
like
loved
the
Warren
dream team
too.
of the century.
Gosh,
Yeah.
that video of Warren finding out about the Supreme Court thing. Oh my god, just like I was like, yes, we need more freaking angry ass politicians.
It's sad because as Bernie's getting old, probably doesn't have many more years of running left in him. I don't know if he'll
Yeah,
run this year because I
I
just don't
know.
think he
He's
has it.
tired.
But I think Elizabeth Warren is a good. I know like there are a lot of people who are pro Bernie
Agree.
and not pro
Pro
Elizabeth Warren, and
Elizabeth.
I think a lot of that is rooted in sexism, and a lot of people
Ooh.
are also like they know that she started as a Republican and
Yeah.
view her as a flip flopper, where I actually view that
What's
as a
wrong with
good
that?
thing.
The party
Yeah,
switch,
exactly.
like people can switch their when presented with new information, new experience, they're allowed to change your mind, and I actually think that that's more honorable than someone who's just like red no matter what or
Can I give
Agreed.
a
blue no
counterpoint
matter
to
what.
this? Actually, because I'm
Yeah.
one of those people who didn't like her campaign. My
Okay.
issue and a lot of people who had the issue was that yes, like I don't care that she flip flopped. It was more that
Mhm.
she would then like while arguing for the basic same things as Bernie, not the same things, but like basic same viewpoints, just different ways of getting there. She would then
Mhm.
argue that Bernie has no plan when his plan is essentially her plan with different steps or different changes.
Yeah,
And it's like that's just
that's like part of the
disingenuous. And that's
running.
whereas he
Yeah.
would be like, we have the same ideals generally, but I have
True.
the bigger legacy. His argument is, I have a legacy of doing this, so you should pick me because I've done it more than her. Her argument was he
Mm.
doesn't have a plan, and like that's kind of
Yeah.
disingenuous when your plan is his plan.
I think that's a byproduct. I agree.
He
I
doesn't
didn't
have a
like
plan
a
because I
lot of
stole
the
it.
I didn't like a lot of the back and forth between those two when they should have been
Agree.
allies. I think that's
Agree.
really a byproduct
100%.
and a byproduct of what our elections have become, where it is kind of a sports thing. And it's unfortunate that it starts before is the L versus the R. It's the left versus the left. You have to
Also,
get to the
the
you know,
Cherokee
the
thing was just
nomination.
rake stepping, just like classic rake step politician rake stepping. Didn't need to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
there's a lot of bad, but ultimately, I think she's probably one of the more genuine candidates,
100%.
and at this point, I would like to have her
Yeah.
back in the race, but we'll see.
Agree.
I don't think Joe's gonna run again, but yeah. So and this brings us to one of our last topics. Bernie wants Democrats to make unions their greatest priority, and I agree with that absolutely. And there's some great quotes in here too.
Oh
I
yeah.
had a brought up, but let's see. What was it? Okay, so Bernie Sanders quotes, "To turn your back on the working class in general is political suicide," later adding, "It is good politics to become strongly involved in labor movement and support workers in their organizing efforts. I think it's the right thing to do from a policy position, and it's also very, very good politics. And I think if the Democrats don't do that immediately, they're going to look at a very, very bad 2022, and they kind of already are. They're probably going to lose lose Congress with their 50-50 split. And
Yeah.
with the growing labor movements right now, with Amazon, with Starbucks, and with just like the general grassroots, the growth and grassroots movements, I think Democrats need to take a long, hard look at that movement. Think about 4 years in the future. Like we might
Right.
lose the next election, but let's think a little. Let's be forward thinking right now. Let's think about
Right.
the future and line up
But
our political strategy with how things are going right now, so that maybe we have a chance at winning
yeah,
the what would that be, the
what-
2028 election,
I think it's
or 20, sorry, not 2028, right, yeah, no, 2028, right, that would be, because the 2024 election will be the
Yeah.
next one, and then it would be
yeah.
2028.
Oh
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
you kind of jumped to your point, and I think we were all just like pausing for a second to figure out what you jumped to. But yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. No, I think people are like really tired of waiting for Democrats to do the right thing.
to do
Um,
anything.
yeah, literally do anything. And like,
Yeah.
it's like the one thing I agree with the right on is that fucking Democrats don't do anything. And they like their whole party argument is we're not the red guys. And it's really annoying. I wish that they would just be more like for the people. That's why I kind of like the Forward Party. I just don't know if the Forward Party is going to get a lot of traction just because people are so used to that two-party system. And it's kind of hard not to vote red or blue for people for some reason. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the only reason
Tangent.
we were able to win the last election by a thin margin was
The other guy was
because
literally Satan.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's an easy thing to run on. Like, oh, we are
exactly. Like we
our
can't run
whole
on that
movement
anymore.
is
I mean, that
against
was
this
that was
man.
the last two elections. It was the last two elections wasn't that
Mhm.
the person who won was the best candidate. It was the other candidate was so bad.
So
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, I agree.
And we need like what we really need is, and that's what the Republicans do well, is have actual like policy that they run on. Like they're very clear what they're against. They're anti-immigration, they're anti-abortion, like what's going on right now. They're pro states' rights. They want to like shrink their federal government, even though they don't really. They just want to control the federal government.
Yeah.
But they run on very clear things, and their messaging is very clear. It's very simple. It's very easy to dissect for people who might not have the same education level that we have. And we need similar stuff. And honestly, labor movements and that would be a great policy to run on. That would be a great
Yeah,
message and very simple
I think
too.
so. I think it'd be very like I read the room and I'm ready to like take the wheel.
And this is also from this article. The National Labor Relations Board that we talk about a lot, the NRLB, has reported that during the period from October 21st, October 2021 to March of this year, petitions for union representation were up 57% from the prior period,
Yeah,
reaching the highest level in 10 years, which is awesome. But
it is.
despite this recent high-profile success, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the percentage of workers represented by a union actually dropped by 0.5% points between 2020 and 2021. So
Yeah.
despite there being more people who are pro-union, the amount of representation is actually dropping, which
Mm,
probably is representative of more companies starting to fight labor movements. And
right. They're
also in
doing
this
damage control.
article, exactly, yeah. So while this movement is building, it's so easy for corporations to bog down those movements with litigation and just keeping these things tied up in court, which is what you see happening with
Yeah,
Starbucks and Amazon right now.
definitely.
And Bernie, there was another quote in here that I like, but it was basically Bernie saying that what we need is more legislation to protect union movements and
Yes.
also to prevent corporations from getting those unionizing bogged down in legislation. Because
Correct.
right now, the Amazon unions that despite getting approved for like being able to unionize and getting the ballots counted and everything, despite that, now they're looking at like spending a year or more in court as they negotiate that with Amazon, who
Yep.
holds all the cards. So legislation would be great to speed that along.
Protect that. Yeah, because Amazon has the money. They have the legal team. They have everything to exhaust people who are fighting them. And Activision's doing the same thing.
Yeah. And Theoretical Joe in chat brought up another great point. The problem with independent parties in American political system is lobbying. The independents don't have the money to go out and lobby on the same degree that the two main parties have, and that is 100. That's 100% true. We are one of the only like countries that has banned bribery, but then also made types of bribery totally legal. It's like bribery's bad. Like and all the time we're like, look at countries like Russia, look at Ukraine, look at China, rife with corruption and bribery. And it's like, bro, we literally have legalized bribery in our country, in our political system. And we hold this moral high ground where it's like,
and
we're
ours
not, like,
is non-taxable because of how it's done.
yeah, true.
Yeah,
it's like we sit on this
true.
moral throne of like superiority
really
where
don't,
it's like
though.
we're not like those South American politicians and those Russians, right? Where all the corruption's happening. We're above all of that because we've legalized it. That's
Right.
insane.
Yeah.
But
Also, can I just say another thing I'm going to take a swing at both parties, Democrats and Republicans. Bernie Sanders introduced I forget what it was. It was like an order to order any I'm trying to remember. So he said that like companies that are trying to unionize or have workers that are actively trying to unionize, I think he was trying to protect, like he was trying to introduce a law to like protect workers that were unionizing, and both Democrats and Republicans said no. So he lost that. I forgot exactly what it was. I wish I knew. Because it was actually something really good for like people that were trying to unionize, and I'm just really mad at the Democrats because like what are you doing? You know, both of y'all are pretty much the same party just with different colors.
Oh, 100%. And on the topic of unionization and unions, we are going to jump into an awesome interview that we have with Iris, who
No, we're
is
not.
a lawyer.
No, we're not. We're gonna do something else first.
Oh, what are we doing
First,
first?
We're gonna thank our first subscriber here on
Oh,
twitch.tv/weekly standup, Theoretical Joe.
snap. Thank
That-
you, Theoretical Joe. Joe in theory. Thank you.
Joe, thank you for supporting the unions. Thank you for supporting us. Thank
He
you for
was
supporting
number
socialism.
one.
You are number one. You will always be number one. Thank you so much, Joe.
We're actually lobbying for Josh to run for president. So your charitable donation.
We don't have
helps us run
alerts
for
yet,
Josh
so thank you. We
2028.
did notice.
Yeah. Thank you. We honestly do appreciate it. And
Thank you so
hopefully
much.
first of many or first of first. Either way is totally fine. Thank you,
He
Joe.
could be first
We're gonna
and
hop over
last. That's a
to
pretty high distinguisher.
we're gonna and again it's honestly like if you can't, it's totally fine.
Yeah, we don't
Like,
care.
There's no obligation.
We would prefer you give us the Bezos bucks and don't pay. We would prefer you stole money from Jeff Bezos and he gave us
Wow,
your
you
Twitch
take
Prime and
Bezos
Amazon
money?
Prime.
Also true.
Yeah.
I should probably do that with my Twitch Prime. Anyways, we are gonna go to a quick be right back screen, and when we're back, an awesome interview.
Yeah,
Be
we're
right
gonna
back.
have
Thank
a
you so
great
much.
interview. Thanks, everyone.
All right, and we are back. Thanks for everyone hanging on there while we hopped away for a quick second. I hope you were able to grab a coffee refill or use the bathroom if you needed to. We are back with Iris Bradstreet, a SAG lawyer and someone who just knows a whole lot more about this stuff than I personally do. Iris, thanks for
Yeah.
joining us. We're happy to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be a resource
Welcome.
and talk labor law for as long as necessary.
Heck yeah. So you want to give us a little like introduction? You know.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Iris Bradstreet. I'm in-house counsel at the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, SAGAFTRA for short. We represent about 165,000 performers, whether they be
Wow.
stunt performers, voiceover actors, dancers, anyone appearing on screen, and regardless of how long they're on set. One day, half a day, or for a series performer for years and years and years. And before that, I was working at a nationwide labor and employment law firm on the other side of the table. So I was working with management.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, feel free to ask me about that. Being on both sides of the table, like I have been, is kind of a unusual career history, only because you just don't see it because it creates a conflict of interest. For example, if you work on one side, you now have a conflict of interest with everyone on the other side, so you can't therefore go work for them. Entertaining is this sort of special industry where no conflict of interest issues presented themselves. So that's why I have this very strange work history. Yeah,
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
And
realize you did also the manager side. That's very interesting. So it's almost like they have very different goals, you know.
Yeah.
If you think about it in like the corporate space, like that's so cool.
Yeah. Believe
So on the on the management side was sort of the goal to figure out ways to discourage unionization, or what were the practices over there?
management side attorneys will never phrase it like that.
Yeah, they
Oh,
can't.
I have no
The
doubt.
They will
phrase-
skirt
The
it.
phrase that they use is a preventative approach, and there's a lot of sense to it. You know, usually one of these firms, I was at Jackson Lewis, you will typically see them, they are known as a union busting firm, and you will see them retained by an employer to help them through a grievance. And then that grievance will get resolved, and then continuing forward, they still have a relationship with that client in the sense that they're now preventing them from committing labor grievances going forward. And
see.
having worked both sides, and I am very pro-labor, and I'm at an organization that I really believe in, and I didn't feel that way about working at a management side law firm. But you do a lot of good work at a management side law firm because you do have the ear of management. So you can see way before it happens that they're about to commit a labor grievance, and you can tell them, you're going to break the law. You have to stop. That's your job as an attorney.
Oh, okay.
Advise them to not break the law. But that doesn't mean that when they first retained you, it was because they made a mistake, and you're there to resolve the issue, settle, whatever it is. They probably, your relationship started with them probably when something ugly happened. So, I think there's a lot to learn working management side, and if you really believe that's the right place for you, good for you, continue working management side. But for me, it was more like a little stepping stone where I learned so much, and I've been at SAG-AFTRA ever since.
Gotcha.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
That reminds me of one of my shows, Billions. One of my favorite shows, Billions.
Sure.
There's a hedge fund that a bunch of sort of seedy business people work at, actually end up hiring someone, one of the attorneys that works for the state that's prosecuting them. They hire one of the attorneys and bring them on the management side to help find ways to essentially, let them know when they're about to break the law, and also try to find like sneaky ways to get around the law that
I
they're trying to
remember
break.
that exact point, and that's a good example of a conflict of interest and why attorneys don't go to the other side, because they now know all the dirt on the other side, and the law actually prevents you from doing that. It's an unfair advantage to know everything from base camp A and then base camp B and use all those tricks against them.
That's awesome, though.
And you did that. You did the opposite. You did the right thing, which is hopping from management to the
help
side of the people.
the workers.
It was such an interesting time when I switched because, you know, the Republicans had just won the election, and working for a management side firm with a sitting president who was Republican just wasn't comfortable with me. So I switched. But also, when I had started my law career, unions were very weak. In the sense that not a lot of funding, not a lot of interest from employees to bring a union into their workplace, which in my experience meant that there were fewer labor jobs for attorneys who are interested, whether it's union side or labor side, to really start and working with these issues and building a career. So you get work where you can in labor. Because there are just fewer and fewer jobs. And then, you know, Trump became president, and then the pandemic happened, and you just saw employees sort of taking most of the economic abuses from, you know, lack of safety in their working conditions, whether it was, you know, nobody's providing masks or hand sanitizer, or, you know, working in crowded conditions, or just being laid off left and right. Or just, again, we had a Republican president, which labor law is highly political, and it changes rapidly depending on which president or which party the president is associated with. So you had a lot of just labor law being passed that was quite hurtful to unions and was weakening unions. And it was a challenging time. And I think that's exactly the type of push that suddenly has employees looking around and turning to each other and saying, oh my God, we need to be represented in a stronger way. We need to show solidarity because management isn't listening to us. How can we do that? And suddenly this old archaic solution that nobody's talked about for a while becomes front and center, and that is organizing and bringing a union into your workspace. And there's actually been an increase, a really big increase in union activity in the last 2 years in terms of petitions being filed, bargaining units asking to have their employer recognize their union. It's exciting.
It is.
That's something we oh, sorry, Jess.
Well,
I
I
think
was
we were
gonna say, it's
about to
something
say
we
the
love on
same
the
thing.
show. We love all the labor movements that are going on right now. I helped really heavily with we're trying to have the first AAA studio video game union, and you know, they just won their right to have an election, so they're gonna do all of that now. Yeah, but they're trying to do this under Activision Blizzard, so it's a little scary because when we first kind of started organizing, I think they caught wind, so they hired a anti-union law firm called Wilmer Hale, and then we called out that they were an anti-union law firm, and then they were like, we're gonna conduct a third-party investigation, but never told us who they were. So they've kind of been trying to union bust and doing the skirting the legal lines of what can we do or what can we get away with, essentially. And I think right now their main goal is just to chase out organizers because I got a lot of pushback, and I obviously left the company, and they're kind of doing these intimidation tactics, but not outright, you know, getting caught doing it. So it's interesting. So yeah, I'd love to know, just a question, I guess, out of your experience and the things that you've seen. What is the likelihood that if they win their union, what's to say Activision won't just dissolve the studio or to do something to try to mitigate the rest of their studios unionizing? Is that something you've seen before?
So the obvious answer is that's against the law.
Yeah.
So there is a body of law called the National Labor Relations Act. It's actually quite short. I think it's 7 pages last I checked. But in the United States, we have a case law system, so there's tons of defining and redefining those 7 pages all the time. But the short answer to your question is no, you can't retaliate against employees who want to organize. That's against the law. Employees have a right to form a union. to act collectively, to bargain,
Right.
and just to put it really bluntly, those are your Section 7 rights.
Yeah.
And we all have them so long as we're all employees. And you might recall all of the, you might have seen somewhere like a lot of the debate around gig workers. And are they independent
contractors?
Are
Yeah.
they employees? And the reason that distinction is so important is that if you are designated an employee, boom, you get to organize. You get to form a union, you get all sorts of like state and federal benefits that you don't have access to as an independent contractor. And I think the right to organize kind of gets dropped whenever we talk about this independent contractor employee conversation, because an employee, you also have your Section 7 rights.
I see.
So if you're a group of independent contractors, you can't, for example, join together and insist that a union come in and that union representative is going to bargain for all of you independent contractors.
I see.
You have to first, that's the first hurdle you have to meet in a workspace. You have to first look around and say, does my contract say I'm an employee? Or does my contract with these guys say I'm an independent contractor? And the second thing will be like, well, are they just calling me an independent contractor?
Right.
And am I actually an employee? That's a different analysis. But that's always the first hurdle is, are you an employee?
Yeah, and that was something for the video game industry, because they do kind of use independent contractors, but they almost have like temporary permanent employees, because they will hire them on like a 6-month to 1 year and then lay them off for 2 to 3 months and then rehire them again. So it's almost like they're not I don't know how like the law works around classifying contractors, but it does seem like they're trying to skirt the legality of like having them bound together, because they are also historically paid very low compared to like full-time employees. So
yeah. And to anyone struggling with the notion that, oh, I'm an independent contractor, I don't see this working out for me, being able to access Section 7 rights, or that it's just not possible, we live in a gig economy, this is the new normal, I would tell them to look at SAGAFTRA. We're a union of actors, and you traditionally think of an actor, you think they show up on set for one day, they do one job. How can they possibly be employees of that whole studio when they just show up for one day to do one job? And the response is, they are employees for that one day. They fill out an I-9 and a W-4, and the contract that they have to fill out, that SAG-AFTRA requires them to fill out, is that it's an employment contract, regardless of how long you're employed. So this conversation around, are Uber drivers like employees? Oh, but they just work, on such a varied schedule. It's not consistent enough. That's not the analysis that you need to be looking at, because you can, like SAG-AFTRA is a model for how your schedule can be very flexible. You can work very odd hours and you'd still be an employee. And the work is highly dependent on the artist's or the performer's interpretation. So they would have what you want to be looking at in a classification issue, regardless of what it says in your contract, is how much control is your employer raining down on you? Did they just give you money and say, all right, you figure it out, just get me from point A to point B, however you see fit? Or are they giving you 50 different guidelines that you need to follow to the T and are controlling it to such an extent, if they are, that they're essentially micromanaging, then they can call an independent contractor all they want, but most likely you're an employee.
Awesome.
The exact test depends on what state you're in, but that's the general. All those tests kind of come down to that core issue: how much control is the employee?
Interesting. I'm so glad you told me that. And also, if I can get a copy of that contract that the contractors sign, I would love to see that, because it's something that we're trying to figure out in the games industry right now, because they will hire contractors but also tell them everything that they're supposed to be doing and like assign them to a manager that's actually working for the company. So are they really a contractor? You know what I mean? So I would love to kind of to have that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I'll follow up with you.
That's cool. I didn't realize it was like the amount of control that the employer has determines whether you're an independent contractor or you're, employed by them and contracting.
Yeah.
And it's pretty common for if you're hired by Activision Blizzard, you're actually hired through like entertainment partners or some agency that where you're not working for Activision Blizzard, you're working for the agency, just doing work for the company. And I feel like in an ideal world, as the labor movements that we're seeing an uptick in right now start to take root, in an ideal world, we wouldn't be working for that agency. We would be working for whatever the union that ends up forming for QA testers or programmers or whatever your role is. You're working for that union instead, in the same way that your actors are represented.
Jump in really quickly, because this is a common misconception. Union members are not employees of the union.
Right. Sorry.
That's right.
They are the elected representative that goes in there and speaks to management and negotiates, wages and working conditions.
Oh,
that's a common misconception. It's something that the boss uses where they're like, a union is a third party, but it's not actually the third party. It's actually you and your coworkers. So thanks for calling that out, because it is very important to distinguish that, because that's the first thing that management goes to, where it's like, no, we're just one company. You don't need a third party.
Yeah.
So,
and you certainly see all those tactics being laid out. They're not holding anything back with the Raven situation specifically, creating a chilling effect by saying all these problems are arising from your own union activity. Our hands are tied. They're throwing around phrases like forced unionism. A union problem, or I haven't seen them use it, but another common turn of phrase is right to work. And we can jump into the Raven issue, or I didn't mean to throw us on a tangent.
No, you're fine.
It's just a conversation. There's
we're just having a conversation, going where it takes us.
Yeah, it's just these eye-rolling tactics where
it's bad.
Yeah.
I remember
effective.
I was in they really are. I was in the 5-day hearing of the NLRB and Activision Blizzard, and it was like a whole thing, and they were trying to argue that first they tried to say because QA specifically, which is quality assurance testers, they're the ones that want to unionize. So their first argument was, we're all one Raven studio, so we should argue for everybody to unionize. And so they fought for 5 days really hard to bargain that QA is not its own unit, and they lost that. So that's why they're having the election.
That's really good that they lost that. And
I
can sort of so once there's step one, which is once the employees all get together and they want a union, they go and they ask to be voluntarily recognized.
And that happened. But
it's just so usually an employer will be like, no, we're not going to voluntarily recognize your union as your representative. They're going to challenge it. That's what happened here. And then the hearing you're describing, and it's really cool that you were there in person. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. Had to do with defining the bargaining unit. And it has to do with sometimes management wants to make the bargaining unit, the number of employees that this
that's what they
union
did,
as tiny as possible, and sometimes they want to make it as massive as possible. And there are different reasons why they might want to make it small or big. Here, what you were just saying, and it makes sense to me, is that they were trying to increase it. It's not just these, I think, 2021 QA employees. It's everyone. It's all the 230 people at Raven should be included in this decision, because they know that, that's not the authorization cards didn't represent those people. And they just have a sense that those people are not either going to abstain or not interested in the union. So it's in their interest to expand it.
That's exactly what they did. It's weird.
Another reason why is every union, and this is also in the NLRA, the National Labor Relations Act, every union has a duty of fair representation. It doesn't matter how big your union is, whether it's 3 people, they could be as small as 2, by the way. people or 165,000 like SAG-AFTRA, you need to represent them equally.
Right.
You can't throw out someone's grievance over someone else's. You can't negotiate better terms for this faction of your membership and ignore this faction, because you could be in violation of the NLRA. So it's this long-winded way of saying that a union's membership has to have similar job functions, because if they're too different, the union can't meet its duty of fair representation. So I suspect that with Raven, the bigger they get the group, one, there's the votes issue. They might know that they don't have the votes, and I haven't seen any indication that maybe you guys did have the votes. But maybe the larger issue there was that if you look at all Raven employees, the job functions are so different from each other that no way one union can meet standard to represent all those different job functions that represent one workspace. So that might have also been what they were trying to do, delegitimize the bargaining unit.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
And I also saw, I was doing a little bit of reading on this issue. I also saw they did this other, so they were moving around QA employees to different departments. Again, it goes back to what is the bargaining unit and are their job functions similar enough? So when they say, oh, a QA employee in the art department has a totally different job function than a QA employee in the engineering department, it makes sense. They're like physically different departments as opposed to the original one department. That's something the NLRB would consider as like, well, maybe this is attenuated. Can this one union really represent all these people?
And it's interesting too, because they announced a embedded model where they, like you were explaining, they broke up QA and put them into each division to try to argue. It was very fast because in the hearing, they failed to provide the evidence that that job is the same as like somebody in marketing or somebody in art, or it's always the same. Like QA's job is to ensure the quality of the product, to find the defects, to report on those defects, no matter what like area of work you're in. So it was very funny to hear them kind of fail to provide like the job descriptions, and then they would pull up like a QA tester versus a designer, or like it was very interesting to see the arguments on both sides. And it was just, you could tell it was very rushed, and that's probably why the NLRB ruled in favor of Raven QA. So
yeah, that's really exciting. That's an exciting next step.
This is an interesting point that I kind of want to elaborate on, because I think that within the video game industry, especially within the people who are trying to push the unionization movement, I think there is this maybe misunderstanding that what that means is one union that does encompass all roles and all sex, this one all-encompassing union. And I think that that's what a lot of like outside viewers, like outside looking in, believe as well. But what I didn't realize is that that's something that could be used against these NRLB hearings from the union busting efforts. So I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Just to your point, it's not your fault that you don't know that. Like reading the news articles and the statements from Raven and Activision Blizzard, they really are making it seem like if these just 21 people get their union of 21 people, it's going to affect all the employees. It's going to affect everyone in a crippling way at not only Raven, but at Activision Blizzard. And it's like, this union's not coming in to represent your 10,000 employees.
Right, yeah, exactly.
These 21 want to be heard. But of course, like, again, they see it like from their mindset as a union problem. They now have a union problem. And if one group of employees, whether they be 21 or 100, has some success with a union and is suddenly seeing improvements in their wages and working conditions, that is going to have, admittedly, it's going to be a cascade effect, and maybe more and more factions, it might not be the same union that's representing these 21, but another one, like maybe the service workers union, maybe the Teamsters from another direction will represent another department, which would be great. I mean, if this company has a problem of not listening to their employees when they complain, then of course bring in a union.
Right. Yeah, and that was the number one thing, is like leadership isn't listening. I had a question specifically to SAG. So is it based on, like, I know you have different like people that work on one day of filming or something. So is it like the bargaining unit is based on everyone working on one project? Like even though that the jobs are different jobs and people are performing different duties, is it just like, you're all in one union because you all work on this project? Is it like project based, or is it like based on their okay.
Take a step back. That's a really good question. So before any producer, whether it's an independent project or a huge studio project or a commercial or like music video, if they want to use our members, they have to go to our signatory department, like the signing department, and fill out paperwork that says we producer, and usually it's a company, it's never an individual person, like we, name of the movie, LLC, what be it, agree to abide by the SAG-AFTRA collective bargaining agreement.
Awesome.
And they become, after they go through that process, they might have to give us security deposits or have guarantors come in. We ask for a lot of financial assurances, especially if it's an indie. Assuming they get through that process and they become a SAG signatory, our actors can now audition and work for them. And that's how they get access to our members, because they have, at that point, signed documents saying we're going to abide by these agreements. If they haven't signed those documents or they don't make it through that process, they are not a SAG signatory. And no SAG member can work for them. That would be essentially like them being a scab.
I see.
Working for less or agreeing to less.
Right.
And interestingly enough, it doesn't quite work the other way around. So like when you become a SAG producer, a signatory producer, you can still hire non-union members so long as you pay them and you treat them exactly the same as any other union member.
That's so cool.
So you can't there's no loophole between we want people to join the union and be on union projects, for eligibility purposes. But if a producer is going to bring in a non-union person, he has to pay them as much as any union person. So there's no loophole.
Discrepancy. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't consider that, but now I have a lot to think about for organizing.
I warned you I could talk about this all day.
No, it's great. I love it. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to get your thoughts on what happened on the set with Alec Baldwin and how they kind of it was said that they used cheaper labor and the protections weren't there, and it really made me think, because it's yes, these really expensive industries like Hollywood, or they'll throw a lot of money at a project, but they want to try and get the cheap labor or something, and then these accidents or things happen, and just out of curiosity, thoughts or how to best avoid situations like that. It sounded just horrible all around, and I'm not even a part of the films industry. I just could imagine. But yeah.
Yeah. So that set was an example of everything just going wrong, which typically happens when a producer adopts a mindset of, I got to do anything for the shot. Like skipping meal and rest breaks, we're cutting funding to this department or these artists here because we just got to get the shot. That's the headspace they're in, and it's frankly pretty common for a producer
very high level
in that headspace. And that's why you have, Hollywood is such a union town, because everyone's trying to protect each other from that exact mindset.
Right.
Producer might have that mindset, anything for the shot, but not his employees. You did have so that was an issue that mostly affected IATSE. But nonetheless, all the unions were all in partnership with each other. So one horrific incident like this affects us all.
Right.
And you just had left and right a lot of events leading up to this that showed that safety was just compromised. The crew was compromised. Their safety was secondary, and there was an anything for the shot mentality, in the sense that the gun was firing randomly. So already, how an armorer is a pretty coveted job in the industry, and it became an issue. I believe the movie called The Crow,
Yes,
where
I
the
remember.
name's Bruce Lee's son. I don't quite remember his name. He was shot on set. What they thought was a blank. And he passed away tragically. And after that, you had a lot of policy change in how a weapon is handled on set. And it just seems like maybe that was too long ago or that was forgotten about. Those safety provisions just weren't followed, in the sense that you're not supposed to have any live ammunition on set. Like, how on earth did that get there? You need to have the gun in the possession of the armorer and overseen by the armorer at all times. And we're seeing that folks would take the guns and use them on their breaks to like shoot cans.
Oh, I see. So there's just a lot of like negligence in that, like
Yeah.
protections.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then so what I know about this, it's just what I've read in the trades. So I'm not an expert on this particular set, but I do know that they I recall reading that they had approached an armorer who's more expensive and always works with two like subordinates. And he insisted on a certain budget and was denied by the production company, and he then therefore refused to work on the project. And the quote I remember was him saying that if anyone refuses me my two like employees, like who have very like, this person does this job, this person is always overseeing the guns, he just sees that as like a red flag of unprofessionalism, and he steps away from the project.
I see.
So that's kind of gives you a sense of how early I think these issues were popping up on that set specifically. And then, of course, the day before, you had actual crew walk off the set.
I know, I heard about that too, and I was like, wow, there was like a strike or something, right?
Yeah, they walked off because, like with Raven, employees were complaining and they weren't getting heard. That is if I could give one advice to any employer on how to not hurt their employees or how to be a good employer, it's like, if people are complaining to you, listen to them. Like, compromise.
It's so simple, right?
Yeah, because when you sorry, go ahead. Apologies.
Oh, I was just curious, for those employees that did walk off, if they, and hypothetically, I don't know if these workers were represented by a union and then replaced by scabs, but if theoretically, if they are represented by a union and there are unsafe working conditions, do they have a right to walk off and still be paid for their time?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it depends on whether, I know that's the typical lawyer answer, it depends.
It's fine.
But there's this idea of a no strike clause. First of all, nobody can be forced, before we even talk about no strike clauses, nobody can be forced to do anything they're scared to do, period.
Yes.
And then it can get down to a discussion, well, is their fear reasonable or not? Personally, I think firearms going off on set randomly is a reasonable fear. But to just walk off set, to strike the set, or walk out of the building in any industry, whether or not you can be replaced depends on whether there's a no strike clause in the collective bargaining agreement.
Interesting.
A no strike clause says that you're not going to strike during the duration that this collective bargaining agreement is in place. These days, no employer is going to agree to any agreement that doesn't include a no strike clause. So you now have this distinction of, is it a lawful strike or an unlawful strike?
Interesting.
If they walk off and strike while a contract is in place, it falls into the category of unlawful strike. Once you're in this box, the employer can replace you and hire other people and fire you permanently. If it's a lawful strike, the employer can have temps. Even then, it's not so easy to do. But you have way more protections if the strike you're doing is lawful. If you've been negotiating and you still haven't reached an agreement for a new collective bargaining agreement or a renewed one, and you're in this weird gap where there's no contract, the old one expired and there's still no new one because the employer's dragging their feet or just surface bargaining, you can strike, and you still have lots of job security.
Okay, and is the only distinction between a lawful and an unlawful strike if there is that clause?
Yes. So it's become a fairly new thing too. Like, it used to not be industry practice where every collective bargaining agreement would have a no strike clause, but Like it's really common now. I don't think I've seen one that doesn't have a no strike clause.
So then
Yeah.
how does a union like IATSE, when they did vote to go on strike, I'm assuming all of the production companies that they were assigned with at the time had that no strike clause. How were they able to legally do that?
Their contract had expired.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
so they
So,
were negotiating the new one. No, and they were
okay.
approaching that deadline. And so, by the way, let me, because that's such an interesting topic. They didn't go on strike technically.
Okay.
They voted and authorized a strike, which meant the lead negotiator could call one at the snap of a finger.
Mm.
That we never got to that point because just authorizing a strike is enough leverage to get a deal across the table, at least in
Makes
this
sense.
industry. Like you can't shut down Hollywood. That would cripple everyone.
Yeah.
And I think what happened there was nobody expected IATSE to get that kind of vote. I think, and this was a probably the AMPTP, that's like the union for producers in this
Yep.
case, the bargaining representative for the studios, probably underestimated IATSE and thinking that like, oh, their databases are all outdated. They're a very disorganized union. Do they even have updated emails for everyone to email everyone that it's time to vote and author? Can they even get a majority? I think there was a lot of underestimating, and then they did. They got a huge, a colossal turnout, and of the people who turned out, it was like a high 90. Yes, we authorize a strike. So no strike was called, but the majority of the union members were ready, and that was extremely terrifying, I'm sure, for the APTP. And the contract was set to expire on a Monday, and they reached the deal on Saturday night, I believe.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I do have I've got another follow-up question about IATSE, but before I ask that, in the chat we have one of our viewers, Theoretical Joe, who has a question. They said, I would argue that most industries these days have run into the same issue as companies only care more and more about their bottom line and less about employees, their rights, and their benefits. I think it's actually more indicative of a problem with business in America than it is with unions. I know we're focusing on Blizzard Entertainment and the gaming industry here, but they're interested to know if Iris has seen a rise in these types of movements and activities outside of just the normal industries that we represent, such as the entertainment industry.
Yeah, that's Theoretical Joe.
Theoretical Joe.
Theoretical Joe. That was a very good question. Entertainment has always been one of the strongest industries in terms of employment because the bargaining power is a little bit more equal. Actors are unique with their voice, with their performance, their personality. It's very hard to replace like a star when that was, the person you wanted to play that role. They can't, you kind of have to, they've got just as much bargaining power as the studio. That's not in all cases, but that's why when you have these very high profile members leading the way, it helps those at the bottom. At SAG-AFTRA, care about the people who are just on set for one day saying one line. And I don't interact with celebrities who have all this bargaining power, but we benefit from celebrities who have all that bargaining power. In other industries, that is harder to achieve because you do kind of have this sense that these guys are replaceable. Just look at Amazon. Right. If you want a bathroom break, you're replaced. Essentially. And it's savage. And so that's why I think historically SAG-AFTRA or entertainment unions have done better. In the last 2 years, I have seen an increase in organizing at companies like Amazon, where you'd think that they would have less bargaining power because they're replaceable, what have you, whatever arguments management side attorneys want to describe as their advantage. I think it's actually because the mistreatment has been so exaggerated over the pandemic and under a Trump presidency that it, like I mentioned before, has caused people to be like, well, what tools do we have in our arsenal? And there's this old dusty one that everyone kind of forgot about, that is collective bargaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I love seeing all the Starbucks and the Amazon and everyone just realizing that I think part of it, like you mentioned, the pandemic kind of really showed people how little the employer thinks about their employee safety, right? Like they were called essential workers in the beginning, and then it was kind of just, well, start going to work, and we're going back to office. We can't function. Sorry. So people had to kind of live with the, okay, well, am I risking my life or some, people around me to work for these wages? And so it was easier, I guess, to have those conversations. That's like my thinking of it. But yeah, it's interesting to see like unions weren't really mentioned that much. Like it was almost like a bad word going, a while ago. But
yeah, it's like either the subject matter is too boring or it's not personal enough to people.
yeah, it's too political, people say.
Yeah,
Or,
there was no appetite for organizing like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and I feel like there is now. It's more of like a hot topic. But I would also just say to Theoretical Joe, just like challenge you, is there anything wrong with carrying, like if unions were stronger and they had enough bargaining power as management, then this dichotomy of caring about your bottom line, and if management behaves in that way and tries to do everything they can for the bottom line, but you also have a union with equal bargaining power, so I just think there's some value in the two extremes.
Yeah.
And somewhere in the middle. I think if management got everything they wanted, it would be a disaster. But I also think on the other side, or I would challenge you all to think, if unions got everything they wanted and were able to dictate how a business should run, would that be a good thing? And I think any extreme is going to be challenging. And I think when these people come to the table with equal bargaining power, I think that's when you have healthy labor relations.
I love that answer because it's exactly what people are fighting for, is like, we're not even being heard. Let's get to the middle where we can at least be heard first, and then we can start bargaining what's best for both parties, right? So it's interesting.
Right now it is so one-sided. I mean,
Yes.
the entertainment industry, like IATSE and SAG, after are some of the oldest unions in entertainment. In fact, IATSE is the first. That was the first one that was formed.
Yeah,
correct?
we are dinosaurs in the labor movement. Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things,
I'd say even older. You're right.
yeah. But when it goes back to the like foundations of unions, it was blue collar work, it was factories, it was the automotive industry, and a lot of those are still kicking and alive today. Just recently, Chevron hired a local police force, and I think we've got the article for this, but Chevron's gone out of their way to hire the local police to bully striking workers. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And they've been on strike for 2 months, I believe.
2 months. Yep.
Yeah.
Chevron is paying the police $200 an hour.
Paying the police
while refusing to, meet the wage increases that don't equate anything near that. So, like, in your opinion, do all of and Amazon does the same stuff? Do you they pay law firms, like tens of millions of dollars,
arrest people,
while refusing to give these minor wage bumps? Do you think that the cost effectiveness of this is worth it in the grand scheme of things for these companies?
The strike is still happening, and if it's like, so the phrase that is used is it's economic warfare. A strike is you are taking away that company's ability to make money. The cost incentives are huge for Chevron. If a strike, even just in a little way, is shown in the media to gain traction, and it encourages just a little more Chevron workers to strike, and it starts spiraling, the damages cost-wise to Chevron are so enormous that it absolutely is in their interest to spend a lot of money on some T50 law firm. I mean, these guys spend a fortune for these expensive lawyers to employ scorched earth mentality, like any option, throw as much money at this problem. Like I've seen Like the claims I saw when I was working for a firm, it was over $1,000. One employee asking for a slight increase over a certain number of times, just $1,000. And I watched these employers spend $60K, $100K, $200K to fight that $1,000 dispute. It's not about the money that one employee makes. It's the public perception that unions work. So they do anything to drag out these strikes, to torment these employees who are thinking about bringing in a union, because they want to show that your work life will suck. Like you will be divided. A lot of people don't, in the workspace might not want a union, a lot do, and employers will use that to rip apart their workforce to demonstrate that, a union problem, see how bad things get for you, when really it's them investing in a lot of resources to make you think that it's bad for you. Again, I will never forget, it was $1,000 dispute, and it was an extremely expensive, and it was worth it. Because all the employees saw that and they were so frustrated with this process, this grievance process. It doesn't work. Like, how long has this claim going on? The union can't get anything done. The union is fighting like a behemoth with unlimited resources. And sometimes it can be hard to convey that to an employee or to employees who have to be the ones striking and fighting this every day, sometimes fighting their colleagues.
Yes, that's the hardest part, is fighting colleagues. And it's interesting too, because like I was in a position where I was kind of a public face for this like movement of like labor in the video games industry. And so I almost felt like a lightning rod. Like people would just like direct their anger at me because I'm the one that's stressing out the company right now. I'm the one that's causing people to like look at unions, talk about unions.
That's exactly how they want you to feel. That's exactly how management and their attorneys want you to feel, and everybody watching your experience. They want them to be terrified that what's happening to you will happen to them. And they want to see, look at all these union problems. Look how it can tear apart your workforce, when really they're spending an egregious amount of money to create that perception.
I almost feel like it's counterproductive at times, because
it should be illegal, to be honest.
It should be illegal, but it's almost like when you create those lightning rod moments, you're making a martyr out of this person. When you're spending all that money to squash a movement, it almost blows it up even more. It hits the national news circuit, and it's just spreading this movement. They're almost doing a better job at spreading the unionization movement than these grass movements.
That's usually how I see in the court of public opinion. That's how I see the dynamic, is the union always has the emotional argument, but the management side has all the resources, and they will just exhaust. They will exhaust employees who, at a certain point, I'm sure you have, Jess, will ask themselves like, what about my quality of life? Can I go do this job somewhere else? And you just quit and leave.
It's especially hard when you're having conversations with coworkers and you're trying to explain to the coworker that's actively upset with you or yelling at you that the things that you're fighting for is beneficial to them as well. They just don't see it yet. Like that was the hard part, was like, this is for you. Why are you against me? So that's definitely the tactic they use, is like separating people, or like they'll focus on one problem, and it's like not about the one problem. It's about like the ability to have a voice or like have some power versus like, just kind of dealing with whatever the company decides on a whim, and just like messes with everyone's livelihoods at the same time, right? So
now on the plus side, under Joe Biden's administration, and with everything going on recently, the NRLB, like the amount of cases that they're prosecuting for for illegal union busting activity has gone up, and it seems like the current like board of the NRLB is very pro-union, and they're prosecuting more and more. But that can change, with the next president.
I know, it's so obnoxious how it can change like that quickly.
Yeah, because at the NLRB judges, there are 5 of them. They only serve a 2-year term. So when the 2-year term is up, the president gets to pick the next one. So they're up all the time. So when, 3 years into Trump's term as president, he's already replaced put 3 NLRB judges of his choosing, and now you have a Republican board. So anyone who wanted to move, like let's say you're working at a union side law firm and you've got these great cases that you want to argue, if there's an NLRB board, you're just going to sit on them. You are not. Then they're just going to lose. You just know it's going to lose. But as soon as there's a Democratic president, now you're filing before the NLRB on all these issues you were sitting on, because now you have
Interesting.
So it's, to your point.
So vote.
Yes, absolutely.
In addition to things, the president picks the National Labor Relations Board judges.
Having the same problem with the Supreme Court right now. Unfortunately, their terms are not 2 years; they are lifetime appointments. Yeah. Unfortunately. I did want to round this back to IATSE really quick. So, we had mentioned previously that if the roles that a union covers are too different from one another, that's something that can be used against the union. So I just wanted some clarification on how IATSE works, because they cover so many different roles and departments, from broadcast to motion pictures, television, trade show, stagecraft, all that stuff. But those are also all individual local unions under the umbrella of IATSE. So is that something, as the game industry in its infancy of trying to create unions, while we're figuring all of this out, do you think IATSE is something we could look at as influence as we try to craft the organizations as something that covers, there are local unions that cover programmers, artists, designers, and there are all these individual branches?
I think that's such a good question, and it kind of goes to this core of, let's say you want to start a union in your workspace. Do you go to a large, established, old union and become sort of have them come in and negotiate on your behalf, use their resources? Or do you just create your own union and call it the Josh and Jess union, and then go with the flow, because you understand your job functions as podcasters very clearly, and this other union, whether they be IATSE or whatever, the Teamsters, they're really not going to know at the end of the day. So that's kind of a judgment call. I would recommend that folks do go to these larger unions for the resources and the expertise.
That's what we did. We went to Code CWA. They were very helpful. It was actually really fascinating, because from the first walkout, all of the employees were very scared. And then we got resources from Code CWA, and they told us our legal rights, kind of like you explained. And then we were like, oh, we can be here and you can take our picture, it's fine. We were scared before, because it's very much that the boss or the employer depends on the misinformation to scare people. And that you see that a lot. So it's great to have the resources.
Yeah, and it's again, these guys are hiring when I say these guys, I mean management. They are hiring expensive firms that are with a lot of money to scare employees or discourage them or create this perception that a union won't be effective for you. And that is a very big bear to fight. And these unions like IATSE, Teamsters especially, are very big bears too, who have a lot of experience. And
to play devil's advocate, I know that the union organizers at the Staten Island union did try to go to and for context, the Amazon Staten Island union was the first union, first Amazon union to be able to successfully pass all the ballots for union authorization. I know that they did go to a larger organization to try to pull from their resources and experience, and ultimately found that not effective. And then they went off and just did their own thing and found more success doing that.
More power to them. It really is. A union is only as strong as its members, and if you envision a certain kind of union for yourself and it's just not working with this larger umbrella issue, go somewhere else. These are go where you want. And it's also normal on the other side for a union to be like, no, sorry, we're not going to represent you. And it could be because, your job functions are too different from our members' job. It's just not a good fit. It's not that they don't want to see you empowered. It's just they can't abide by that duty of fair representation if they bring you in.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Good to know. I've learned so much today.
Yeah, it's been so
Like,
much
I love
information.
it. It's been so great. It's great to know, like, the legal stuff because it's better to, like, fight back, or, like, I know my rights, like, I know my code and everything that like, I'm within my legal right to organize and stuff like that, so it is helpful, and thanks so
Yeah.
much for coming on the show. Yeah, we're very excited. I
Yeah, we'd
know
love
it's been, like
Thank
we've had you
you.
queued up for a while, so we're, like, excited to get you on the show.
Yeah, this was wonderful. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure
Yeah.
speaking with you both.
absolutely. And
Can
I still have so many questions.
Right? We could go
and
on.
yeah, in the future, I'd love to have you back. And I don't know how familiar you are with the foundations and history of SAG, but I'd love to just
Mm.
know how that
Yeah,
all started.
That would be
sure.
awesome. Hopefully when Raven unionizes, we can bring you back.
Yeah, I think there's until May 20th is the end of the election. So by then there should be more news on this subject. So I'm sure
Yeah.
everyone's sitting by the edge of
Foreshadowing.
their seat.
Before we let you go, is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience or
Yeah,
any
you want to
call
promote
outs?
anything? Anywhere where people can find you or
I am not very active on
okay.
social media,
Nice.
but Jess and Josh have my information. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Always happy to
Yeah.
answer labor law questions.
Yes, we love it. It was
Well, thank you
great.
so much. You've been a wealth of knowledge.
Thanks so
All
much,
right.
Iris.
You guys have a great day.
Likewise, Iris. And then we're gonna cut to a quick be right back screen. And
Wait, hold on. Something's wrong. Hold on. I don't know. I'm checking Wave. What the what? I don't. It's just not detecting. What? Can you hear it on stream? Okay, because on my OBS I see no waveforms under the audio. Like I don't see anything. But if you hear them, Ollie, I mean. I swear to God, on my OBS, there's no waveforms right now.